Hey, my name is Matt. Welcome to Downshift. This is the Mercedes-Benz GLS. This is the Mercedes-Benz GLS, and it's the SUV version of the world's benchmark of luxury mobility. And it's very, very good. But not everything's perfect, so we're gonna hit the highlights, both good and bad, starting with the bad. We're going to start with the interior and specifically the build materials, and I think this may be a bit harsh because it's not like it's outright bad, but there was a time where you would buy a Mercedes-Benz product and you would know for a fact that you were getting the highest quality, the richest leathers south of a Bentley or a Rolls-Royce. And that's just doesn't seem to be what's going on with this GLS. The leathers don't quite feel as rich as they used to be. Some aluminums are now plastic, and there's more cheaper plastics lower in the car, like your door cards for your water bottle. But of course, you can always upgrade your interior materials and trimmings. Like, you've got this really nice open pore wood on your center console and across your dash. You do have nice aluminums, and the leather is still pretty good. It's just maybe not quite rivaling Bentley like it used to be. And next we're going to talk about third row access. Of course, the GLS being Mercedes' dedicated flagship SUV, it's the 3-row, and you can get it in two configurations. You can get it like the captain's chairs like I have here, or you can get it with a bench seat. Now, what I'm about to tell you is specific to the captain's chairs. The bench seat is better for getting into the third row. But on the driver's side of the car here, it's kind of difficult to get into the third row. Of course, you can just walk across and down the center aisle here, as you do have the captain's chairs, but if you want to move this seat out of the way, you have to first go to the door, as you have your motorized controls, and you have to slide this thing as far forward as it'll go, which isn't that far, and then there's this red tab that you pull, and then you fold it in half, and then you literally have to like climb up onto the back of this seat. But then on the passenger side, there's a nice little tab at the top of the seat. You just pull this towards you, hold it a couple seconds, and then the seat will whir itself out of the way. And the nice thing here is, look how it's stayed about 90 degrees. So if you have a child seat here, you can leave it here. The back isn't gonna fold over the seat, and then you have a nice, easy, and big opening to get into your third row. When you're done, you just push the button back. You do have to hold it to put it back, which is a little bit of an annoyance, but there you go. Easy peasy. Again, the bench seat will have this tab on this side, on the other side as well. So that's nice. And then we talk about the third row, and it's not huge back here for somebody over 6 feet, which is kind of what we've come to expect from this industry, unless you go for something like a huge long wheelbase Escalade or Navigator or, you know, Tahoe or something like that. But there are some nice things back here, so we'll talk about that on the positive side of the video. But the other thing is, on the BMW X7, you can get a little pane of glass up here for a sunroof, and you can't get that here on the GLS. You have a great Pano roof for the first and second row, but there's nothing back here, so it does feel dark and it does feel cramped. And fourth and finally, we talk about the starting MSRP, and we have to talk about the starting MSRP because the way that you option these luxury cars, your BMWs, your Audis, your Mercedes, is you don't buy trims really. What you buy is the base vehicle or whatever the powertrain is, and then you add features on top of it. So anything can cost anything, more or less. So we'll talk about the starting MSRPs. Now, this GLS is more expensive starting than a Q7 and a BMW X7. The nice thing, though, is that it's about $20,000 less than a Range Rover. So that's pretty good. But there's a lot of good stuff happening with this GLS as well. So let's talk about that. We'll start under the hood, as we so often do, and there's actually 3 options that you can get under the hood of your GLS. We'll start with the base engine. Now, there was a time where the GLS originally came as standard with a V8. Obviously, those days are gone now, but what you have here is a fantastic straight 6. It's a 3-liter twin-turbocharged inline-6 with a 48-volt mild hybrid system. There's also a supercharging component with the electrics and the gearbox worked in, but we won't get too technical. It makes about 360 horsepower and 370 pound-feet of torque, and the big benefit here is your fuel economy is up to 21 mpg combined. You can go up to a 4-liter twin-turbo V8 in the GLS 580. It's about the same engine that you would get in the S580. 480 horsepower and 515 pound-feet is on tap with that V8. And then there's the fire-breathing V8 from AMG under the hood of the GLS 63, but that's a different video entirely. Number 2, we're actually going to talk about the ride and the drive of this GLS. This isn't the AMG one. It's not pretending to be sporty or anything other than a big, comfy 3-row family SUV. And it does a great job at that. Everything is just easy. You get 4MATIC all-wheel drive as standard. You have a nice solid feeling, substantial feeling chassis. And your steering isn't too weighty or fatiguing. And your suspension is really, really sophisticated to give you the best ride possible. You get dual wishbones in the front and a multi-link rear, and you get adaptive dampers with air springs. The air suspension is controlled through the 48-volt mild hybrid system that runs through the engine, and the system can control and soften and firm each individual spring to give you the most supple ride. And then you can get e-active body control on this thing, which uses the cameras to read the road in front of you and pre-adjust the suspension to minimize what comes through the cabin and what you feel behind the wheel. That got a little technical, but in layman's terms, it's amazing technology, and it actually works to give you the most incredible ride. And then, as you'd expect from Mercedes' biggest and most expensive SUV, the technology here is top class. You get Mercedes-Benz MBUX infotainment system, which we've covered in other videos and gives you almost too much ability to customize things. You have 2 massive screens for your cluster and your infotainment, and you can control the center screen 3 different ways. Of course, you've got Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, you've got great 360 cameras, and you have an augmented reality navigation system, which will use the front camera to show you a feed of the road in front of you, and it'll superimpose a graphic showing you exactly where to turn. On your steering wheel, you have Mercedes Autopilot or Distronic controls, and it's a great system overall. And to tie a bow on it, you have the Burmester sound system, which looks as good as it sounds. And this next point is specifically about the design of the cabin here. I know we talked about interior build materials and we've talked about tech already, but this specifically is about the overall design and the way that space is used in the cabin. The way they laid out the dash design and the center console is handsome and tasteful while still maximizing space and functionality. You still have a deep center console with sturdy grab handles on each side. You've got door bins that will hold big water bottles, and you've got chargers everywhere. And it's still packed with frills and stuff that you'd love to use, like heated and cooled cup holders, wireless charging pads, etc. And with all that, at no point does it look anything other than clean, handsome, and elegant. And you have an awesome ambient lighting system, probably one of the best. The only thing that outdoes it is Mercedes' own S-Class. And then we talk about the second row. We did talk already about how it's kind of difficult to get back to the third row, but if you're just sitting here in the second row, it's awesome. It's spacious for legroom and headroom. You get an awesome panoramic roof, and you get electronic controls, which are on the doors, of course, in typical Mercedes fashion. And you do get powered sunshades back here, a couple things that you don't get really anywhere else. And you do get dual zone climate controls back here, and the ambient lights will do an animation to reflect whatever you do to the climate. Making it hotter, it'll go red, making it colder, it'll go blue. I'm a sucker for this every single time. And you get a bunch of charging options back here. As you can see, this isn't a bad place to sit, even if you're over 6 feet. And then we talk about the third row. And we talked about how it is to get back here, but once you are back here, it's really pretty nice. It's not the biggest third row in the game, but it's big enough for me to be comfy over 6 foot. You get climate vents, you get 4 USB-C chargers, you get storage, and you get cup holders on each side. Really, I guess my only gripe is the fact that you don't get a dedicated little sunroof like you would in the X7. And then we'll talk about luxury features. This is a Mercedes-Benz after all, and their flagship SUV at that. And as a result, you can spec a load of luxury features. Heated and cooled seats, massage seats, heated steering wheel, heated and cooled cup holders, power adjustable second row seats, which you find almost nowhere, and power controlled rear window shades. You get second row heated seats, you get a big Pano roof, and of course you have the massive screens and the advanced technology package here. I mean, you can put pretty much anything you want on this car. And the eighth and last thing that I want to talk about is the cargo space and features. From the outside, it looks pretty simple. Of course, you've got power opening tailgate, and you have a little hidden compartment under your floor. All these things are pretty standard, but this actually also functions as a command center for your second and your third row seats. Now, you can electronically lower your third row. You can also electronically raise your third row. Not everyone has that, but this goes a step further. You can electronically lower and electronically raise your second row. That's not something that you get in a lot of other cars. And since this has the air suspension, there's a button right here on the side that'll lower the rear end, so it'll make it easier for you to load and unload heavy stuff from your trunk. pretty cool. So that's it. That's the best and the rest of the Mercedes GLS. Overall, I'm really impressed with this thing. I think this is probably one of the best overall vehicles in Mercedes lineup currently, including the AMGs and the EQ models. It just does everything really, really well. And that's exactly what I'm looking for from a family third row. I don't need a lot of flash, I don't need a lot of pizzazz, but I just need good amount of space, a lot of practicality, and a load of features. And that's what you get here. So thanks to our friends at Mercedes-Benz of Milwaukee for letting us have a go.